what's very interesting about Crawford is that she was able to adapt her image according to the current fashion, and she seemed to have a real gift for knowing when one period was ending and when to reinvent herself.
I'm going to start doing. I'm going up where it's art.
Bette was given, at the beginning, a lot of ingenues, but then when Bette started fighting and started getting the decent roles, they were all over the map. Bette Davis desperately wanted to do Somerset Maugham's Of Human Bondage, which would have meant a loan out to RKO.
That sort of thing doesn't mean anything to you.
That's what you think.
She wanted something on screen that would break her through, that would get her the attention she hadn't gotten so far playing dyed blonde characters. So she fought to get the role of Mildred.
And she basically went to war, pleading, kicking, screaming, and hounded him for months until finally he said, "Okay, Bette, go hang yourself."
You don't take me out, someone else will.
Well, she didn't hang herself with the role of Human Bondage. She got an Academy Award nomination, and she began to be noticed in Hollywood as an actress.
People were not expecting this range, this depth, and this ability to completely debase herself on screen.
What do you mean?
That certainly was a kind of a part of camp humor. It was a kind of bitchy sort of insult humor. And she certainly was kind of the movie's first kind of bitchy star. I don't think anyone before Of Human Bondage ever took such relish in wiping the screen with her leading man.
And after you kissed me, I always used to wipe my mouth. Wipe my mouth!
Bette was willing to do anything at any time. I mean, she would have put on a hairsuit and played a werewolf if it was a good role.
You're no longer important to me. Your importance ended when the show closed.
She wanted to build, and she did, a gallery of unforgettable characters.
She was an actress, not with a capital A. Every single word's capitalized. Bette Davis was an actress, and she played the role her whole life.
Joan played the star 24/7. Joan was always dressed to the nines, even if she had to go to the convenience store. She once said, if you want to see the girl next door, then go next door.
Joan Crawford really had a lifelong mission to be taken seriously.
Aren't you going to kiss me?
And yet she was sort of ambivalent, because she also wanted to maintain this certain glamorous facade, but she wanted to be taken seriously as an actress.
Oh, you. Get her out of here.
Wait a minute, boss.
Steve, I haven't got time
she's
to
got
waste.
plenty of talent. Listen to me. Just watch her once, will you, please?
All right, all right. Let's see what you can do.
I find something very infinitely touching about this woman who came up from terrible adversity and created this extraordinary image of Joan Crawford and maintained it with such discipline and drive. And in every one of her movies or TV appearances, she's always going for that Oscar.
I'm like that guy throwing quarters in the slot machine. I keep on trying.
Instead of giving in, she did just the opposite and did what she had to and made a career.
Well, what do you find so amusing?
What do you find so disturbing?
When Bette won her first Oscar for Dangerous, she showed up at the Academy Awards to accept her award, dressed in a little house dress, looking like what Carl Laemmle referred to her as a little brown wren.
There was a little bit of a kind of a, the hell with you attitude that she was rejecting the star system. Bette Davis was, in a sense, the first rebel actress.
When she won her second Academy Award for Jezebel, she came to the awards more suitably attired.
Saucy, isn't it? And vulgar. Yes, isn't it?
Jezebel was a very important film for Davis in 1938. They really started truly creating women's pictures for her with big budgets. It was an enormous success.
I give you a toast. To the firm of Dillard & Sons, a venerable institution, a financial colossus, with branches in New York, Boston, London, and Paris.
Bette Davis was notorious for fighting for the roles that she won, for going on suspension, for not doing roles that she deemed unworthy of her, for leaving the studio on strike, thinking she was going to get punished, and every time she did it, things happened that made it better and better until finally, approaching the end of the 30s, she was tops.
How cozy.
After Joan Crawford married Franchot Tone, her second husband, she wanted to change the shop girl image and try the kind of roles Bette Davis was doing in the late 30s. However, it didn't work for Joan Crawford. Her fans were used to seeing her in that rags to riches formula. They didn't want to see her at all unsympathetic or playing too strong a woman yet. But she was changing, she was aging, she was moving into it.
You gotta kick and punch and belt your way up, because nobody's gonna give you a lift.
Joan Crawford was very driven. She was so determined to prove that she was not just a clothes horse, not just a glamour girl.
Why shouldn't I stay as I am, on top, with these clothes, these people, this life? Am I any different from them? Do I act any different?
No, Annie. But you are.
I'm not. And I'll prove it to you I'm not.
She heard about the film of the women being made from Claire Booth Luce's play. She read the script, and she saw there was a supporting role of Crystal, who's the great villain of the piece, who's just the bitch to end all bitches.
And by the way, there's a name for you ladies, but it isn't used in high society, outside of a kennel.
And she was determined to play that part, and Louis B. Mayer, the head of the studio, was very much against it. So what on earth would possess you to want to play that role? And she said, I'd play Wally Beery's grandmother if it was a good part. You know, she was willing to sacrifice glamour or sympathy just to prove that she was an actress.
I've worked too hard to land this meal ticket to make any false moves now.
Taking a supporting role in what was a top-lined Norma Shearer picture, The Women, was quite a move for Joan. I think she wanted to get into some fireworks there, and she did.
What did you expect me to do? Burst into tears and beg you to forgive me? Isn't that what you really came in here for, Mrs. Haynes?
Not after seeing you. You're even more typical than I dared hope.
Well, honey, that goes double.
She virtually stole the film. She played the bad girl, and this may have been her first intimation that playing a bad girl, as had happened so often with Bette Davis, will get you more attention and more acclaim than playing a sweet thing.
It'll be out tomorrow, Mrs. Prowler. Fowler. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Fowler.
And from then on, Joan Crawford's image did harden.
Bette Davis did play a certain amount of heroines. I don't think she preferred those roles. I think she preferred her more outrageous parts and demanding roles. And she was one of those actresses that really loves looking as awful as she could. There's a certain kind of actress, there are very few of them, but who you can tell just sort of revels in looking hideous. So I think Bette Davis particularly enjoyed playing the latter scenes of Mr. Skeffington, where she suffers from diphtheria and all her hair falls out.
There are a lot worse things in this world than losing one's beauty.
Bette Davis just broke the mold because she insisted on looking just like the person whose life she was portraying.
Joan was let out of her MGM contract. Was extremely upset about this. Once again, as Jack Warner was wont to do, he saw a saleable commodity on the open market, so he offered Joan Crawford a contract at like 1/3 her Metro salary, which Joan took.
She knew Bette to be the queen of the lot, and she made an effort to let Bette know that she wasn't really trying to usurp her position and try to befriend her, but she did what she often did, which was she overdid it.
She would leave flowers in her dressing room and little gifts, and, you know, Bette Davis was like, what is this crap?
I don't want it.
Now, because Bette was the queen of the lot, she got first pick of all the properties that went through Warner's, and she was offered Mildred Pierce first, and she refused it. And Joan took the role and won an Oscar for it, so I think there's really the beginning of the rift between them.
Vita! Not on your life! I said give it to me!
Get out, Vita. Get your things out of this house right now before I throw them into the street and you with them. Get out before I kill you.
Mildred Pierce comes out. Big hit. And here was Joan Crawford, who couldn't get arrested before. Now she's suddenly, you know, top of the world, Ma.
It was even more disturbing to Bette that as Bette's Warner Brothers career was winding down, Joan's was taking off.
I can't get you out of this, Vita.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Number, please. Give me the police department.
No.
After Mildred Pierce, Joan Crawford began playing the long-suffering victims of varying kinds.
And I didn't help her kill herself. I had nothing to do with it.
Here's to love. And here's to the time when we were little girls. No one asked us to marry.
If she had not been nominated and won for Mildred Pierce in 45, I believe she would have not only have been nominated for Possess, which she was, but she would have won for this because it is her finest performance.
I told you once I'd do anything to keep you from leaving me, and I will.